So I didn't get that information. So going into AXO, the way AXO, like he is saying, it should be set up what I would expect at the same time, but that there was a separate account, not a personal account, but a separate account for AXO funding. That would make sense. When I came on board and tried to figure that information out, found out that was not the case. AXO funds were actually in a personal account, and that is part of something that's, I'm not gonna go too far in, but it was part of a personal account. And because of that, AXO funds, and we also learned during that same period of time is that, from my understanding, being a new board member too, is that AXO is supposed to raise its own funds, and it is a separate entity. Through our audit and investigation, we found out that basically AXO had not raised any money for 2018. They actually had received a loan from the general fund, and that information was dug up. And in fact, Mr. Hackett was actually part of that system during that period of time. And so it was interesting that we all come to this now, but regardless of that, AXO should be separate. So from this standpoint, from my standpoint, I've actually set up 3 different accounts because AXO didn't have its own bank account. AXO literally had in a personal account, and it wasn't part of anything that was even on the record. So once that information came out and we had to try to do some digging to try to figure out how to separate this, I personally have set up, going through Seattle Credit and spending hours and hours on their banking relationships there. So we actually have 3 separate accounts. AXO's one of them. To make sure, and actually right now, she doesn't have access to that at all. When we did have AXO, when it was first set up, the only person I had access to it was Darcy at the time. So I made sure she had a debit card to take care of the situation. Because they never had that, at least to my knowledge, from the time we started in January, they didn't have that. So she was set up that way, and she didn't use a debit card for anything per se. I think she used it for going to, taking the kids to Detroit and things of that nature. Once that was set up, once it was over, I stopped it because we don't really need it anymore. And because of what was going on, we want to make sure that nobody's going to be implicated on funding going out. And so that system right now, is the money she put in there back then is the same money as there. It's all the documentation's there. As far as we have a main account also, and we also have a stipend account. The stipend account has not been touched. I know all the issues that are going on around that, but that money's been sitting there and it's just sitting there. You know, there's no activity on it. We have proof of activity because to go backwards and looking at Bank of America account, we have access to all the information. So for a lot of the allegations coming out as far as stipends and things of that nature and nobody getting paid before, obviously we can see all that information. But that's not my role to get people in trouble per se. It's just to start where we're at and move forward and make sure everything is separate.
Thank you, sir. Please go ahead.
My name is Beyonce. Quick question to the AXO chair. Currently, do you have a committee that you're working with?
I have a theater company with instructors. Is that what you're asking?
No. Do you have an AXO committee that you're working with? You should have an AXO committee that you're working with. You do not.
Okay. 1, I just started, but 2, I've been trying to get information so I can move forward, but it's been either so-and-so has it, or so-and-so has it, or so-and-so has it, and I haven't gotten it. So I have to start from scratch.
So usually the AXO National has information, anything that you need to know about AXO. It's all on their website, and I'm sure Larry Brown will give you any information that you need. And I'm sure the former director passed on that information to you. Is that not correct?
No,
she didn't give you anything? No. She just left you with nothing?
I haven't been given any information.
Do you know exactly what AXO means?
Say again?
Do you know exactly what AXO means?
What they need?
What it means. You don't know what it means.
I do.
But you do?
Yeah.
And what does it mean?
Oh, shoot. Only because
Your mind is foggy right now?
No, not right now.
Oh, okay.
No, the only reason I don't know is because I have multiple sclerosis, so I have to do certain things to bring up that. I just was looking at that yesterday.
Okay.
It is the, gosh.
Don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I don't want to do that in all due respect. But I think the thing is, it's important to come up with a committee, and I think it's important for you to know what AXO means, because how are you going to relate any of that information to the students and to the parents?
How?
So if you don't know,
when I get the committee, then I will be able, I mean.
But at this current time, you have no committee, so it's just you. So
Correct.
you're the one that's going out recruiting, correct?
I will be.
Right.
Because like I said, I've been trying to get information from the people that had it before me, so I would know, the students that have been there, it's a 4-year program, and I need to know.
It's a 4-year program?
Yeah. That's what my understanding is that it's
Yeah.
a 4-year program, because when they start, they can go all the way through to when they graduate from high school. It's not just a,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I needed to know, or am very curious to know, who didn't go to the AXO presentation, the competition, and who, because they did, but they still are interested, they're still involved with it. I don't know it, I haven't been given
So
any information.
here's what I'm gonna do for you. Since the former chair is here, did you give her any information? Okay, because I wanna make sure, since she's here, I wanna, because if she didn't, shame if you didn't. But here, can you answer that question? No.
I actually approached Ms. Kabibi, you may remember this, at the Tabor 100 event, that if you needed anything from me.
Last week you didn't ask you for information that you said I'd have to
Right.
look at something else to find it. So,
There,
yes.
all of the information is on Google Drive. As long as no one has deleted it, it's all there. And I do remember recalling, letting you know that there was an email that was exchanged between you and Mrs. Carolyn, and she told you then that Darcy already told you if you wanted a transition plan with me, that I would actually do it with you, because I did not want to leave you high and dry. I have emails concerning that. I followed up with you after the Tabor 100 event, and I said in the email, I'm following up, if you would like to have some type of transition with me, I would be more than happy for you to do it. However, you did not give that information to me. You went directly to Ms. Carolyn.
You and I had a conversation on Friday or Thursday, and I said I'm going to be at the Tabor 100 meeting, and if you would give, if you don't mind giving me, and you said just like you just said, but it's your first time giving me this information to check with the AXO.
Remember that there's an email sent earlier in September, and I stated if you needed anything from me, that I would give it to you. And I actually followed up with an email.
Have you given it to me? Because I sure asked you for it.
No, you only asked me for some names.
You haven't given me anything.
And let me, one second. What I mentioned to you on Google Drive, every person's name that's on there, I didn't take anything with me. I left it all in there. So any information, who's ever on this board can show you, Tawanda can show you how to get that information. They closed the account out from me, so I can't get in there. But you have the access to go into Google Drive, which is going to be very important, like Ms. Erica just said, is to make sure you have a committee.
Letting me know that.
Have a committee. Well, no, I just mentioned this to you. So, I mean,
But I'm not done. I'm not done.
Darcy. Okay, Darcy, hold up. Let's don't make it a tit for tat, please.
This is not a,
Let's don't make it happen like
this
that.
is not, I'm trying to make sure she understands. And am I, she did not. She did not understand, so I was not screaming, I was not yelling, I was just having a communication with her. Was I not? So thank you. So Ms. Kabibi, if there's anything else that you need, I am more than willing to give you the information, because I want to see the AXO succeed.
Thank you. Because it's all about the children.
Hold on, yes.
You know, it's about the kids, it's about us.
Time out, brother. This is too much. It's too much, bro. Y'all, first of all, let me
Stop for a second, stop. I understand that. And I understand it's too much.
As minorities, we got to be ashamed of ourselves right now.
Tell that part.
Again,
Like y'all got to be, y'all, seriously.
so I'm gonna give everyone an opportunity to speak. I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to speak on both sides of the aisle. So
There's a better way to do this.
I agree 100%, but right now, this is a membership meeting. And so I'm gonna respect the rules of a membership meeting and let them say what they need to say.
Children in here, seriously.
So are we done with Axel and Ms. Habibi? There's more questions for her? Okay, so.
Y'all have office hours?
Hold on.
I swear, do y'all have office hours?
No, they don't.
My time is money. Y'all are wasting my time right now. Give them the money.
So, just a quick thought. Once again, thank you for your service.
Can we have order?
Yeah, just a quick thought.
Can we have order?
We're not always gonna be on the same page, and that's healthy. So let's just be constructive as we move forward. Just in the observations here with AXO, it's clear that you have not been set up for success.
Thank you.
So from a leadership perspective, who are we putting next to her, one, to ensure that she gets up to speed and is successful? Two, how did she get in this role without the training? Three, is there anyone else on this board not appropriately trained and aware of their accountabilities to move forward and be effective in what the NAACP has been called to do?
Thank you, sir. So I'll answer from my perspective as a treasurer. Coming into this role is very difficult because I was actually set up for failure, actually. From the standpoint of not having any transition, I even reached out to, I won't say the name, but I reached out to the treasurer out in Baltimore, the headquarters. I didn't get a lot of information back. I didn't get any manuals, things of that nature that are current. I didn't get any documentation. I didn't get any access to any bank accounts except for Bank of America that we have that has been spread out throughout the hemisphere, basically. I personally believe I was set up for failure from the get-go because I didn't get anything at all from a financial standpoint. Not having any documentation, no general accounts, no expenses. It's been a difficult time for me to try to even adjust to dealing with an external audit or internal audit, and then also dealing with bills that weren't paid so that when they're coming through, it's hitting our account and screwing us up. So from my standpoint, I don't believe I was given a good transition. I've come up to speed pretty quickly because of my background, but the reality is, without my background, it would have been very difficult to try to figure this out.
Yeah, so I want to get real focused. The questions were, who is beside her to make sure she's set up for success? Because right now she's not. It's obvious. Is there anyone else, question two, on the board who has not been appropriately trained, gone through risk management, fully aware of what their responsibilities are? And three, maybe two, how did she get in this role without being prepared? Yeah. Who made that decision?
Also, if I could just add to that, the training that you're receiving, is it NAACP facilitated, led, and approved training? No. Not outside training. That's the training I'm assuming Brother Kelly is referring to, not random training that $10,800 was paid for, but training done by the NAACP.
We have a question on the floor, so let's address.
Right, so.
That wasn't a question.
That's like that'd be a good starting point for us to kind of figure this out.
I understand. So I'll just answer from the financial standpoint because I won't answer for everybody else. Okay. From the financial standpoint, I did end up talking to the treasurer in Baltimore. I got some minimal training from him as far as what to do for his reports because they didn't provide that from the previous administration. So for Axel, I'll redirect it back there. So I can't answer Axel, so I will sit down on that level. But as far as just financial information, yeah, we have received training. I've received board training through Project Lead, what to do as a board member. I've been a board member myself, Boys and Girls Club. So I understand that process for the financial responsibility part. But as far as other things, we all did go through board training. We all went through training on that level. She wasn't here during that period of time because there's been a transition. There's been a lot of turnover also. So for the people that were here before, they actually received training, but it took them a while to get up to speed themselves.
So I guess one question
at
at a time.
I think it's unfair for her to automatically be kind of attacked in that way.
No, this isn't an attack.
I'm not saying from you.
Yeah, so this isn't even a question to her. Question one, how did she get there without training? She's not prepared, so,
I was voted in.
okay,
I
so,
was voted by the board.
okay, there we go.
That answers that question, right?
Okay, so as a result of that,
And it was only because of my background, because of,
So-
being the executive director.
right, so were there any conditions to that said, we're gonna
Still
get?
talking. Would you please respect the fact that she's still finishing her?
Yes, ma'am, I can do that, as long as I have the right after that when she answers. Do I have the right?
That is very clear, yes.
Okay, and you're the parliamentarian or you the sergeant of arms?
No, I am.
Okay, so you're out of order. So you're gonna tell me to do
Hold
that.
on, but we're not here to point fingers
I'm
out.
gonna take a
No,
moment
you-
to
you
acknowledge
actually
that we are
can't.
on Coast
You
Salish
actually can't.
land. I want
You
to
can't.
introduce myself. I am new in this room, and I'm gonna reiterate again that we're on stolen Coast Salish land of the First People and the First Nations. Having said that, my name is Phoenix. I'm of the Tlingit and Haida Nations. For all of those who are not familiar with that tribe, we are from Southeast Alaska. We have ancestral ties to the tribes here. We understand what it is to walk in respect to our elders, and this is exactly why I stepped in and said something. Because that's important to me. These questions are valid, but my cultural upbringing is that we try a little bit better to respect our elders. And that's the only point that I want to make about that. As far as who I am on this board, sir, I was also voted in to be on this board as the Veteran and Armed Services Chair. I served active duty in the Air Force as a federal contractor for the Army in suicide prevention.
Full appreciation of that, and you do have many former board members here. And we respect the role there. So, question there, no disrespect there, just want to make sure that we're in order, even when we're correcting each other. And I acknowledge your position, I acknowledge your statements. And I acknowledge, because you're actually calling us to order, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So back to the question there.
What was the question again, please?
So you were responding to the training.
Okay, I was unanimously voted in as a board member, and AXO is the program that AXO offers is that's what I'm an expert at, is bringing kids, up, whatever, I don't care if they're spoken word, singers, dancers, and I go to my community with the ones that are the experts in it. And they'll know. I mean, like I can't dance anymore. I used to be a choreographer, but I can't do that anymore. So that wouldn't be a class that I would be facilitating. But because I have been doing this since 74, being involved with teaching the arts, this is why I believe the board thought it was a good place for me to at least start out at.
Because you said you had a lot. I'm gonna let this brother go, then I'm gonna let you end it because you said you had a lot. All right. And to speak to what Ms. Kabibi, myself being a new board member that came on in January, we were approached because of what we do and what we do well, and thought that it would be good for the board. That's why I was asked here. That's why Edward has a background and works for the government doing audits. So that's why he's a treasurer. So to answer your question, why Kabibi was asked to come on is because of what she's done in the community, working with children, actors, everything that AXO is supposed to do, just not in the AXO program. Does she need to be educated? Absolutely. Does she need to be paired with someone so that she can at least be prepared to win? We recognize that, and absolutely. These are all things that we take seriously. These are all things that we will address going forward. So I appreciate those questions. I appreciate you digging further and asking what you ask without being accusatory or what have you. And to you ladies, I heard what you said as well, and I take that into account. I'm not just holding a mic, I'm also taking notes in my head and figuring this out. So we, as a board, are listening to what you're saying right now, and we will try our best to address them all. At least I know you can hold me accountable. I will try my best to address as much as I can, and you can put that on me. And my name is Drew D'Amberville. I am the Membership and Community Outreach Chair. And if you have a problem with me, you can bring it to me too. I have no problem standing up and saying what I have to say, or sticking up when I need to stick up for people, or sometimes you just can't stick up for people. But with all that said, I want to move this forward. Let me get to them and I'll come back. Gentlemen in the back, you've been anxious. I'm gonna let this. I want to get this moving forward because I want to get you guys out of here at a timely hour. So, introduce yourself.
My name is Dre James. I'm the president of Access. If you don't know what Access is or haven't heard about it, we specialize in staffing minorities through specific events and specific platforms. On August 25th, I did a 3-on-3 basketball tournament where I invited 20 basketball teams to come out, and most of those teams were sponsored by different corporations such as DocuSign, Zillow, Pace, R3, CITC, Microsoft was there, Seattle Police Department, Teamsters, IBW, we name it, 30 different organizations. And what we did was we reinvented the interview room and took it out of its traditional four walls and set it in a place where minorities can thrive. I'm done with meetings. And what I have for you as a question is I got my phone out. I don't really care about what you don't know or what you think you don't know or why you don't know. I need 5 resources from you right now to help you. If it's my time, if it's me giving you a day of trying to help you do your job and get to where you need to go. Because that's the most important thing right now. I don't care what you don't know. I care about getting you where you need to be. That's it. You are an elder, and I respect you as such, and I apologize for my brothers and sisters treating you like that. Because first and foremost, you are that before you sit in that chair, and a black woman. Period. So I can address you because you're not sitting in that chair, and this is an opportunity for you to become more active if you have a problem. That simple.
You don't know who you're
I
talking
don't
to.
care. I'm not concerned with
Wait, ladies and gentlemen,
I was saying,
ladies, I'm talking to everybody, please stop, and I will give you an opportunity.
Well, then he needs to
I will
chillax
give you an
with this over
opportunity.
here. She's right. Apologize for yourself, but don't
What
apologize
about
for Beyonce.
the lady in the front, who I'm going to respect right now? What do you need from me? What do you need help with? How can I help you be better? That's all I care about right now.
Please give me your contact information.
Will do.
And
Will
wrap
do.
it up.
I would like to
Thank
talk to you
I
afterwards.
appreciate you. Because
Also,
it's about
I would like to
kids.
speak to you afterwards, because not only
Who
are we
are
going to
you
help
pointing
minorities
at
get
me?
jobs.
Are you pointing at me?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Okay.
Ma'am, excuse me, I'm sorry, I do not know your name. I do not mean to be disrespectful.
You
Not
are
only-
being disrespectful. You are being disrespectful.
I'm not telling either one of you about
Oh, who are you talking? You've been a quite a few people across the
Simple. It's not you. How much you dress or whatever she have on, we don't know. It's not, our name is not you.
All right, you got 30 seconds on the mic and we're moving on. We have 30 seconds and we're moving on.
Not only at this event are we going to get minorities jobs, but we're going to teach them how to dress as well. I would love to start some sort of a business fashion show, because when I walk into Nordstrom's, I do not see that element for our young brothers and sisters. We need to take control of that category because it's not something that's monetized to our culture. Please, please, I would love to speak with you afterwards.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want to go next. Can I go next, please?
I've been, James Bible have been trying to speak.
Anyways, my name is William Anderson. I'm a part of the community.
Stand up.
Sit down. I'm here. Hello. Anyways, I'm a part of the community, and I have 3 questions I want to ask. I want to know, how consistent are you guys going to be on locations? That is the #1 issue of not being organized. Let me finish, bro. I'm speaking. My question is, I'm not here to argue with nobody. I just would like for us to be organized. We're not organized. The NAACP has not been organized. I've came to some meetings. I haven't came consistently. I've done my work in the community. I ain't got to say what I did. Action speaks louder than words. My main concern is, in order for us to be organized, we gotta be consistent. And by me being at this meeting, we're not consistent. Very unorganized. And the first thing as far as being organized is having a steady, solid location. We don't have a steady location. It's terrible. I'm not done. It's really simple. The time, the day, the month, it's not consistent. It's terrible. That's the reason why you're so organized, unorganized. Because when you try to figure out when to come, it's like the last Monday, the third Monday, people work. So maybe you must come up with at least a whole solid day or 2 solid days out of the week where we can find this location and be here consistently. That is the reason why we have what's going on now. Okay? This lady who's elderly has probably been coming for a long time, and she put herself in a position because she just wants to try to help out, but she's not trained properly. And part of the reason why is because inconsistency as far as having a consistent day, a consistent time for people to come. So if you can come up with a consistent day and a time, then it'll make things more balanced. And one other thing, I'm done, sir. One other thing is, NAACP, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Make a long story short, I feel like one thing that we have to do to be more organized is you guys got to get on the platform of media, YouTube. Have some kind of platform or classes for young kids, adults to learn how to video. When you have an incident, learn how to video, hold the camera, have classes for that, and then have a platform where you can upload videos where you've been disrespected, violated in a way. So what I'm saying is you got to come up to date, up to speed with technology to help fight back on issues that were happening today. I'm done. I really appreciate you guys listening to me. Thank you.
As a membership chair, let me address that real quick. One, we do have a steady day. It's the fourth Monday of each month. The only time it ever changes, ever, is if that fourth Monday falls on a holiday. 2, we move these around on purpose because we asked at a community meeting, do people want to keep coming to the CD when the black communities moved out to Renton and Burien and Bellevue? So this is by design so that we can get out in the community. So those 2 points right there, I'll speak to that. Third, regarding being on digital media platforms, you should follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram is popping. Our Facebook activity is phenomenal as well. So all 3 of those, if you pay attention, we have it all covered, brother, I promise you. The 4th thing you brought up regarding a video class, I like that. I like that idea. That's something we can roundtable. I can't make decisions for the board, but we can think of ways to do that and bring that to the community. So thank you for what you said. We're paying attention.
I want. Is there a microphone over there? No, we don't. What was? If she wants to.
It's not going to take me but a minute. The reason why I think what we're missing is this program, AXO and the NAACP, is about empowering our community and our people and our children. And this is where, if you know me, born and raised here in Seattle, that's what I've always been about, is the empowerment of our people and our children. As far as video classes and things like that, we've been doing that since 2010 because Seattle Public Schools discontinued summer school. And instead of doing music, drama, and dance classes, we changed that. Went to the teachers that were taking their vacations from school and saying, hey, and we raised the stipend, going to Tabor 100 and different organizations and saying, look, I've got some professionals that would like to do a free summer youth education program for 6 weeks in math, science, literary arts, creative writing, video, and anything else we could prepare our children for the future for. So this isn't new to me. It's just that I don't know AXO's game plan. How, okay, where are the students? How do you guys send things out to the community and say, hey, look, we're looking for kids. Do you go to the schools? These are things that I do, but I'm trying to make sure that I stick with what is protocol and how it's been done for so long. But the doing of it, been doing it forever.
All right. Should I take a seat? You said you was gonna be a while.
Oh, yeah, you can take a seat.
Oh, boy.
I got questions for you too. So, yeah. You can start with me. You should start with me, please. I'm not sure that I will. But I do like the comfort. I like the knee over, the all of that sort of thing. I enjoy all of that. The microphone will be used. Now, as a former president of the Seattle-King County NAACP, I've generally deferred to whoever is the president. I've generally done that, but so many people have come to me and talked to me about issues that were present with this particular executive committee. And I did learn for the first time in our history that a check from the NAACP had been bounced.
Not just one.
I'll get there. I did learn that our kids of AXO, for whatever reason, were at a point where we had $0.
No dollars.
$0. And we're on the verge of not being able to go to that national event that they were promised to go to. So I want to ask some questions specifically pertaining to how we got here. Starting with January.
Yes.
In January, when were the accounts signed over to the NAACP president and its treasurer? Sure.
Thank you. Oh, you can.
It don't matter, just get the microphone.
All right, so to answer your question, when we're, the only account that was handed over to us at the time of me taking over is around January.
Sure. Just trying to stay out of people's way.
Okay. So to answer your question, I started in January 1st officially when we started. As far as trying to get an understanding of the bank accounts, that was around like January 17th when we went to Bank of America off of 12th. At that time, that's the only bank account we knew of at the time. What we ended up learning as some of the processes is that there's like 5 or 6 different bank accounts out there that was not disclosed to us. And so AXO didn't have its own bank account per se. It was actually sitting, like I said, it was in another person's personal account. Not to go too far into that because of what I said before, and it's not to disparage anybody, it's to look at the situation of what we walked into. And so the signing over, 3 of us actually walked into the bank to sign over the accounts. At that time, I still didn't have any general ledger, didn't have any expense reports, didn't have anything to tell me what comes in, what comes out, who has additional access to the account, who has back-end access to the account, which I've actually learned there is some things going on behind the scenes, actually, which is, that's also part of investigation, because that's actually a federal crime to do that. That's just something you can't do. But it's not for me to say who's doing what. It's just the reality of the situation. So it was around January 17th when all 3 of us were able to walk in and get the
So I have a question specifically pertaining to that. How much money was in that account?
From the beginning, I'm going off the top, it's roughly about, I want to say 26,000 or 29,000. It's like, that's what it was. When we first started.
39.
Well, I'm going off the top from the time frame, but 39. If it's 39, it's 39. I'm not looking into the actual information. I've looked at so many financial transactions, my head is spinning, but if it's 39, it's 39.
And I can appreciate that. So at the time that you found out that there were $39,000 or 26 or 29 or whatever amount, did you put that in any sort of financial statement so that the board could review and know at least that?
Yeah, so I actually gave a full recount of, because the first thing the board wanted to know is where we're at. That makes sense. I mean, I wanted to know too, because I'm coming as a treasurer with no information. I don't want to walk into a situation where I'm going to be liable for a lot of stuff. And so that's not my background to want to do that. And so I understood we actually all agreed unanimously to try to figure out where it's at, and then it turned to an internal audit. But to answer your question specifically, at the time that I received, well, just Give me your question one more time so I answer it.
In January,
Yeah.
did you write a financial report, submit it to the executive committee, indicating how much money was in the account that you at least knew about?
Actually, yes, I presented a full account of all this stuff from 2018. I actually went back from January, or a year back actually, to give them, it might have been 18 months actually, because I tried to get all the transactions I could from Bank of America, which only goes back about 18 months during that period of time. And so I gave a full account of all the things. I even gave a trend analysis as far as, okay, this is the money spent. I don't know who spent what, but this is a trend, so because we can understand what are we operating with? What's the normal budget that we should have? And so I actually did a trend analysis. I saw a lot of things in there. I looked at checks that I was like, I don't have a general ledger. I don't know why what it's for. Is that normal? I don't know. But
you did this in January.
I did this in January, yeah. I actually have the report. I actually have a full report from that standpoint. But if I released it from the standpoint of, there would be more questions for you probably to want to ask different people, but it's part of the investigation that I can't necessarily go into.
I'm sure I will ask plenty of questions of a lot of different people.
Right.
But for now, did you submit that statement to this executive committee for them to approve it or not approve it? No.
But it wasn't approving. It wasn't an approving situation.
Approve.
No, I hear what you're saying, but it wasn't an approving situation. They wanted to find out what is there, and so what I did is present what was there. That's not the question you asked me.
Okay, so wait a second. Maybe I can help you.
Okay.
Every month with the NAACP, a financial statement is given to each executive committee member. Each executive committee member, people that have been here for decades are nodding their head right now, review that actual piece of paper and then either approve it for perusal, is one of the words that our former judges on the board would actually say, or don't approve it.
Right, so I'll answer your question.
Did you present that?
So what I will tell you, to go back to what we were saying before. All right, so I'll walk you through the very beginning again. There was no documentation as far as what is and what isn't.
You did have a bank statement.
A bank statement with no transaction information is nothing, because then if I see a $10,000 check written to somebody, what am I supposed to say about that?
That it was written and
For what
allowed the
reason?
board to actually see what the information
They actually saw that information. Actually, hold up. I actually walked everybody, so for the full year, or year and a half of information, I literally walked everybody through each check from that standpoint. I actually printed those checks off, saved them on a laptop, and I walked through this to show my concern of like, this is the past year. I don't know any of the prior activity. So I'm looking at a check for $10,000, for $2,500, multiple times to the same person. In the comments, when you write a check, you write it to, it's nothing for. So I'm like, okay, well, it's not for me to say what is, what isn't. I just like, this is a pattern. These are checks that are going out. These are checks going to board members. I don't know what for.
Did you submit any statement saying, I have no idea what?
Yes, yes, I did. Yes.
Did the board review that and approve it or
not?
It
wasn't a review. It's a system.
It's not a review. Do you know the rules of the NAACP?
Hold on for a second. You're not asking me the same thing. I'm presenting what was before, because none of the board members knows what the financial situation is. So yes, I understand what a statement looks like, and I have presented statements. So the point is, going into the situation, you don't walk into a situation blind with no financial records. I presented what's our situation, and from that standpoint, the board was so concerned that they unanimously said, well, we need to know more because there's no financial information, there's no general ledger. They're not agreeing to what was the past because nobody can agree to the past. We're all looking at the information brand new as I'm looking at it. So from that standpoint, during that period of time, the first month we were trying to figure out what the heck's there.
Right.
From the second, third month, they have been presented, this is what's going on. These are the situations we're in. We didn't have a lot of money. These are the ideas that we're trying to do. But for the first couple months, we were still transitioning because it quickly turned into an internal audit. It quickly turned, and it was always reported on where we're at with that situation.
Right. So point of information, there has been an external audit that has been done. I know because I was there. But
it's never been presented to anybody.
So, now, in reference to January, it seems like nobody actually knew what the resources at NAACP was, right?
I will tell you this. I will tell you that is exactly a great situation. Like, that is probably our number one concern. We don't know. There's now we discovered there's like 6 bank accounts.
Right.
That was not disclosed to us. So for the resources, we didn't know what resources were there.
So in January, did this executive committee approve funds for an inauguration? We didn't have an
There was no
inauguration.
inauguration.
For what has been termed an inauguration to some, or a fundraiser. There are other executive committee members that are here that can actually talk to us. Were funds approved for that?
We had a cocktail mixer, yes.
Were funds approved for that? Yes. Did this executive committee actually vote on the amount that was to be spent for that?
Okay, so I can speak to that.
Yeah, did the executive committee vote on an amount that was to be spent, knowing that you had no idea what kind of funds you had?
Okay, so the mixer that we had in February. So initially, the president and vice chair was coming out to do the rounds of fundraising for themselves. They asked how could they support the branch. So we said we could have a dinner where it's just the board, or we could put together a fundraiser. We discussed it as a board and made the decision. Eli Lilly was one of the sponsors that said they would come in and give us $5,000, which that invoice still has not been honored. Honored. Please respect us. Thank you.
I didn't say.
Okay.
I didn't say.
Okay, so please be respectful, Terry. Thank you. So, that pretty much was what was done in regards to that. So we put on the mixer. We had a fundraiser. It was a fundraiser and all-in-one, and it was a way to bring the national president and the vice chair here, and they could meet the members as well as the board, and it was a celebration. So it wasn't an inauguration, it was a mixer.
I can appreciate that.
Yes.
But my question really is, did this executive committee have a budget and approve that budget before allocating money to that mixer? Sir, you're shaking your head no, and ma'am, you're shaking your head no as well.
Was you there? Do you know? Okay. So she said she was.
Okay. The gentleman with the husky shaking his head no as well.
Did you have something to say, Clark?
I don't, we didn't.
Thank you.
I don't, from my knowledge, I don't think the committee, were, to vote on that.
Well, I was on the board at the time, and I can tell you right now, we did not know how much money was in our account, and we did not.
That isn't true. That isn't true at all.
You guys just told me the number.
You guys did.
Wait a second.
So, let me ask you. So let me ask you, what is the reason for this questioning in regards to the mixer? I'm just wondering.
In relation to your fiduciary responsibilities, what I hear is Mr. Newlands, who's dedicated to his job and auditing and all that stuff, done it for the government, tells me that he doesn't totally have an understanding of exactly what the NAACP resources were in January, and I'm guessing February as well, because he has to figure out all kinds of different things, and that's fair. He indicated that there was one account that he knew of out of 6, had no idea, and yet somehow an executive committee was supposed to have approved a budget and $10,000.
So it was not $10,000, that's not correct. Where are you getting your information from? Because that isn't true. Those numbers are not correct.
You can't. Did you get paid for that?
Did I get paid for that? No, I did not.
No? You
Because
set it up.
So
I
listen,
said,
listen.
so let me,
No,
you asked
no,
me a
no,
question,
no.
let me finish. You asked a question, let me finish. My company, my personal company, is doing events. I use my resources to secure the venue. I got a DJ to come in and a photo booth.
Yes.
They paid for the catering food. I got the venue to waive the fee, so they paid about 1/3 of the price of what it would have been to have the event there. I made $0. Not a check came to me. So, correction, the DJ and photo booth were paid through me.
The
As a
employees
discount.
were.
The employees were paid through me. That's it. I did not make a dime, earn a dime off of that. So for Carl Mack to go on social media and say I made $10,000, one, show me an invoice. I can provide you the catering invoice on what it was and all that. I didn't make a dime on this. It's laughable.
What I'm most interested in is, since resources are being allocated, why not a statement at that stage saying this is what was spent, this is how it was spent.
Okay, so
this
there is
where
a
it
statement.
went.
There is a statement for
In terms
that.
of approval for the executive committee to have looked at it beforehand and then made a determination about exactly what was spent afterwards at the next executive committee.
I shot the email up the chain to get approval. Obviously, I don't have access to pay for anything. So venue and all that, monies had to come through. So I was tasked to price out and get this event. They gave me less than like a week. I think it was like 2 weeks.
Who was that?
President Sadiqa, the
So
board.
we were
I mean,
following,
the situation as it was put to me was that the president and vice chair were coming to make their rounds at Microsoft to do their donations, and We have them for a Tuesday if we want them, because they're already in town. So I put something together as quick as possible.
So did the executive committee approve the expenditure in a meeting?
Again, I understand that, but again, I would have to go back and look at my minute. I can't answer that off the top of my dome. Okay. Anyone who's sitting here saying, oh, I remember that meeting, we've had 2 meetings each month since then, right. Not to mention my daily meetings. I can't tell you exactly. I know what I did personally. I got an estimate, I sent it up, and it was paid. Therefore, it's out of my hands.
Okay. And you don't remember whether or not you voted.
Pull up the records to see.
So, to speak on, like I said, we can speak on that all day. I was tasked with something, I did.
Got another question.
So, James, had we known the information in advance that you were gonna ask, we would have pulled up the information and had it ready for you to review.
Oh, I think that everybody knew this kind of information.
So no.
Right?
So
and
no.
the next question.
Okay, so James.
The next
James,
question.
okay, so are you gonna be respectful of the chair?
I am trying.
Okay,
I
so.
will acknowledge that in terms of protocol and in terms of respect.
So can we please
executive committee members, former executive committee members came in here, a former president came in here, and the executive chair is supposed to acknowledge all of them at the beginning. That's a point of respect. That point of respect didn't happen.
Okay, so you, okay.
Well, my apologies for that.
It's okay, survival.
Okay, so
May I ask another question?
Yes.
Now, at the time, I understand that a PR firm was retained. Is that correct?
Not at that time, no.
At some point, was a PR firm retained?
Yes.
What did you know about the funds at the time that the PR firm was retained?
All right, so what I know, I'm kind of going off memory, man. This is a while ago. So what I knew, the situation of our finances, was that we were at a point where we're starting to see the opportunity for money coming in, trying to understand what the financial situation is. At that point, I think we had learned that there's a PayPal account that wasn't disclosed to us, that was something where there's money sitting in this PayPal account. We're like, where's that money going to? And so there was a certain amount in that PayPal account. So from our stand, like I said off of memory, I don't know the exact number that was in the PayPal account, but with that money added to what we already had at the time, we were sitting okay. We weren't sitting in a deficit at all. And so from my memory is that one of the other issues is that when we try to get that PayPal account to go, which was supposed to go back into the Bank of America account so we'd have those funds available to us, whoever set that up, that went somewhere else. It went to some back-end account. And so there was a period of time where we were sitting really nice and we're making plans like you were mentioning. And as far as the Katie Hall situation, Katie Hall Communications, she came in and presented. I remember she presented. I remember the board, we all agreed. I didn't approve. I personally, I didn't agree with the PR stuff, not because it's a bad idea per se. It's because I work in media too, and I understand we can do a lot of stuff. And at the same time, I don't know if Katie Hall, I didn't know her background. So it wasn't like I didn't think she was good. It was just I didn't know her background, but everybody else understood it. They recognized her talent. And so it was voted on, and the board approved it. And the people in this room, the people that were on the board were here.
Thank you.
The PR person maybe have been approved. Was the amount to be allocated approved? Was this board informed of the actual amount that would actually be?
I have to look at the minutes. I can't go off of every single thing with the board knew, because not everybody's always at the board meetings.
Doesn't seem to be in the minutes. I'm just telling you because I haven't.
Right, I don't know. I can't say off the top.
Okay. Deontay.
Okay, so apparently we're all here for a reason. So first and foremost, I just want to say I joined the board in April. So Mr. Bible will keep on asking these questions until we actually answer them to the best of our ability. So here's mine. I'm not looking for anybody's pat on the back and might even be scrutinized in this space, but I'm just going to keep it real on where I was at, okay? So I got voted on the board in April. Come towards May or June, we owed Keela. We also we had that apricot thing that was going on, and there was another transaction with donations that we had to pay for. Weekly. Around that time, at the end of May, the check, I don't know, this is what I remember. The checks bounced.
What?
They bounced. Let's just keep it real. Don't say what. Y'all know y'all be looking on Facebook like, I'm being very transparent with you. So just respect what I'm saying, and you can just take it how it is, and we're going to come out with a way to rectify this, because I feel as though you think that just because our check bounced, that doesn't mean we're not your community. So let me keep on going. So either way, those checks bounced, and it was messed up. It was messed up because at the end of the day, throughout that process, we had to do. There was other transactions that we were doing as we found out that information. When we found out that information, we also did something which we ended up with the AXO money, the AXO funds, and that's when we took those funds back because they owed it to us from last year. I continue. Throughout that time, not only did the Keela thing bounce, my LGBT, my pride check bounced as well. So at the end of the day, this is not. I'm shaking right now because I'm just getting so frustrated. I'm not afraid to tell people when like what's going on. Yep. This is community. I have been an addict. I've been to jail, and it's because of this organization that I'm still here. Now, I'm not asking for everybody to sit up here and woe is us, but I'm asking you to actually just don't come into the space to attack. And I apologize to the old board members that are here as well. I respect you guys as well, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of transparency spaces where we haven't been on. I'm a community member, and my resume within a year is long. But at the end of the day, I couldn't have done it without the people from that was not on this board and the people that are on this board now. I'm just asking for, at this point in time, as opposed to this pointing finger space, as opposed to this, let's put us on trial to find a way to just answer the goddamn questions because it's been a long damn time.
Thank you.
What's my position? Oh, I'm Deontay Damper. I'm the LGBTQ chair for the NAACP King County, the first. And hopefully not the last, Mr. Bible. You gotta stop with all this how to get away with murder shit.
Now, I do believe I've actually helped Deontay before, too. I still have questions.
Okay, I understand that, but are there any others that have questions?
Yes.
You're taking over.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I have
no,
Because, but I have some more questions.
Take my question.
Do you mind? Okay, thank you.
No, Jay.
So now, there are additional questions, and if you don't answer these, then I'm gonna have to continue in a different sort of way. So, we understand that by May, end of May, early June, we actually are bouncing checks, correct?
If you want to put in the time,
It's not just one check.
no, let me answer the question. So, I think what you're. So, I'll put it in the context of, I think from what I've seen, walking to NAACP, it was kind of run like a mom and pop shop. And the accounting systems and whatever they had going on were non-existent. And the financial transactions, where they're coming from, where they're going, don't know. So walking into the situation, Deontay's right about, things coming in out of nowhere. And it's screwing up things that we were already gonna set to pay. So when you say a check bounced, as soon as Katie Hall's check bounced, I actually called that morning or the day before, something like that, because our account went into a negative. I couldn't understand why. I got a notification that's going negative. First thing I called Sadiq, like, hey, what's going on? And the reality was I didn't know. And so I ended up calling our back-end person. She was trying to fix up the back-end information. And so I come to find out it was a Weebly account for like $1,600 or $1,700. I don't know what Weebly was at the time. Now I understand it's actually our accounting service, or G Suites that nonprofits have. It's very costly, but the board before it, that's what they agreed to. We were continuing on the path for that. And so when that bounced, you know how it goes, it's a circle of events, actually. And so it's not so much like you can just stop it on the dime. So the reality is, those type of transactions that go through, it throws off a lot of stuff, especially since we don't have this PayPal money that was supposed to go into what we thought. You push the button to go back into the account, it's going to be feed into our account. It goes somewhere else. Whoever has that account, they got that money. So let me finish my question now. So into your question. So when you look at accounts and you look at a mom and pop style shop that we walked into, there's accounts that we can't necessarily attribute to where's this money going, why can't we pay this certain things when the money was sitting there before, and all of a sudden the transaction goes through, it makes his bounce, it makes somebody else's bounce. Right. But it's from the standpoint that they get paid though. So we got charged like a $35 fee. That's what it got charged. It's not one of those things where I think what I saw through you guys is maybe not yours, is that somebody's writing fraudulent checks. That's not the case. That's not the case. So I know what you guys are trying to do is try to say make it a fraudulent check. Somebody knew ahead of time that they had zero balance and you're writing bad checks. That's not the case. What is happening is, and to go further with that, because of somebody has back-end access to the account. I can't say who, I know who, but somebody has back-end access to the account. There's still transactions going to somebody that is actually manual, because I checked this with the bank. Somebody's manually taking money from us that I can't stop because I tried. And so now I'm working with the bank to try to figure this out. So that's happening while we're still trying to pay checks. On the flip side is, I'm also saying, you know, this is ridiculous. Like, trying to manage this account is ridiculous. I can't manage something that nobody gave me any information on. So let's start something new. Went to the board and got that approved. We started working with Seattle Credit Union to get some total separation of AXO, to try to make sure we have a financial account that's a main account, and the stipend was set up that way too. There's 3 different accounts. They never had that before. So that's the system of trying to... Yeah, I gave you plenty of time to answer the question. I'm going to give plenty of time to answer.
What about a couple of weeks ago? Thank you.
Say what?
A couple of weeks ago, there was some checks that bounced. Is that due to the old board also? Or
No, well, I'll tell you what's going on right now. What we're doing right now, and so I'll pause this real quick to let you know something, that whoever leaked it out, man, that's a serious federal crime. And I was like, from that standpoint, hold up. I actually talked to the bank today, and I was trying to figure out, well, who has back-end access. It's like the equivalent of you taking my social security number and posting it. There's actually laws around that. You might want to read up on that, because I was surprised too. So let me finish. Just let me finish. Let me finish. You can't take financial information, post that information. You can't even take other people's personal information and do that. So that just set that right there. But as far as to answer your question, we are transitioning away from that account for a reason. We just got a charge from Shiloh Missionary Baptist that we've tried to stop multiple times. Whoever has access to that, because we've asked from the prior board, like, who has access to that account? Where's that money going to? Who do we call for at least to close that out? So
with all of that,
yeah.
Why approve thousands of dollars to a PR group when you don't know what you have? Why approve $5,000 to an internal audit? Did you do a timesheet? Did you do a timesheet for that? For the $5,000?
It wasn't even $5,000. I don't know. Your numbers are off. It's $4,000. No, but what I'm saying is, so to answer your question is,
did you do a timesheet for that? Did you itemize the actual amount of time?
I do have a amount of time that I spent on it. I was actually.
And were you the person that authored that report? Did you author the report?
No, actually, I didn't author the report by myself. No, there was a committee.
Who authored the report?
So what we had is on the committee, we had Mr. David Hackney, who was a Harvard law student or law professor or whatever, graduate. He was actually working on the report with us.
Was he just working on it, or did he author the report?
It wasn't his job to author just a report. The internal audit report I actually authored the internal audit report.
You authored it?
The internal audit report was something that we agreed upon by the board to have me do. That was an internal thing. That wasn't even meant to be going to external. Actually, that's for us to figure out what's going on. And in fact, based on the people who were there, all people unanimously actually voted on that, including a Harvard smart dude that's a lawyer. He agreed that too. So it's one of those situations where
you're supposed to be an auditor. Let's get the facts straight.
Yeah, I'm an auditor and I did my job.
3 weeks I tried to contact you. You didn't participate in the report at all. All you did for your $4,000 was to prepare a ridiculous report saying that you
where's the
spent
information
this much
coming?
money.
What was the information? No, hold on.
The so-called report that he did in January, that was his audit. It was absolutely useless. I couldn't use one piece of information that you provided to write that report.
So
you didn't collect
I'll say something.
any data. The question, you even said that you had no data in the transition. How can you conduct an audit if you had no data?
So
I went to Cynthia Hobbs.
Can I answer the question?
And I got the data in August, in July, for 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. You did not.
So can I tell you where I got my information
from?
from?
The so-called treasurer had no information, and what audit you did was ridiculous.
So the reality is, the situation is, if I'll go back to the information. So for me to do the internal audit, what I had to do, I had to go to Bank of America and request 6 years of transactions, and I actually have that information. We actually paid for it. They actually charged us something they wasn't supposed to. They refunded the money back. So I actually went through 6 years of transactional data that was not provided to me at the very beginning at all. Some of this information came to us after the fact when we started talking about investigation. Then all of a sudden we get documentation. So When I met with you in the Beacon Hill Library, I asked you for everything. We have documentation of that. You provided me only a report for 2017, 2018. I'm not going to disparage you at all. But I'm
I do need to comment on it.
I know. Can I just finish what I'm saying there?
So, one final question.
So to go back to, so to go back to the audit that I did, the internal audit that was approved by the whole board, was that I actually contacted Bank of America to find out, okay, I need 6 years old. I need that transactional data. I need all that information. Every transaction I went through, meticulously went through, and trying to figure out what is and what isn't. Created a trend analysis, did all the things I would normally do in any type of audit, trying to figure out, okay, this person's name to what? Do we have any meeting minutes to compare? So when I'm looking at somebody's check for $10,000, I can say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Even though I wasn't part of that, it makes sense, I can understand it. Didn't receive any of that information. Asked to receive it, asked multiple times. So to answer David's question,
He sent a legal letter.
yeah. That's what I was about to go to. So what's his interest? It's not funny, actually. It's not funny. It's actually a serious thing. Is that we have people on the board, and I would say, hey, this dude is hella smart. He went to school with Obama. He told us that all the time. I didn't check on it, but that's what he told me, and I believe it.
We didn't check on a lot of stuff either. Wow.
What?
We didn't check on a lot of stuff.
No, I understand, but I believe it. But I believe that. But I believe that he is what he is. What I'm saying is, it's not to disparage it. We got a lot of smart people on this board. Everybody in this room is super bright. I know that. The fact that we're fighting about a lot of stuff is kind of unfortunate, but we're here. So the brother's smart. He knows what he's doing. He also was working with me hand in hand trying to get information. I met with him at his place when I actually had my report halfway done. And he didn't have any information at that point in time. He was going through his own process for internal investigation, trying to set that up. We got multiple letters back and forth from the brother talking about this. A board, we actually talked about what I was finding as a board. The 6 years of documentation, I actually shared all the documentation on my laptop and showed them where it was coming from. Hey, these are the documents at the Bank of America. We had those.
Didn't Mr. Hackney, didn't you have to draft up a legal request to the prior board to send us documentation because they refused to share banknotes with us? I thought you did it twice.
So we didn't receive any documentation, sir, right?
You're acting
but we requested, even through our legal redress, we requested multiple times.
That you did not provide financial reports monthly.
Actually, I did though.
To audit. That doesn't account for the fact that your audit, your so-called audit.
Just real quick.
Well, I will tell you this though. If the audit, just let me answer the question. David, I have no problem with it.
And you should resign, and Sadiqa, you should resign.
Yes,
David,
that's correct.
If it was that, if the internal audit was that bad, do you believe we have this much pushback right now?
Yes.
No,
Yes,
no, we would not. Because some of the things that are in that internal audit, people don't only want to hear about. Well, can I finish what I'm saying? If that internal audit was that bad, we probably would not be receiving this pushback. My goal is not here to put people in jail. That's not what I'm trying to do. So my point is, the information that I uncovered through the internal audit that was approved by everybody, including the smart brother right there, it did show things that weren't documented, that we couldn't prove, and so we all agreed to have that go to an internal investigation. This brother right here worked with us on that.
Why don't you share with us the results of your internal audit?
Yes.
So from the internal audit, I gave you a full trend analysis of 6 years of documentation. I gave you checks and things of that nature, examples for certain, whoever the people were. Hold up.
All the transactions.
Hold up. There was over 300 some transactions individually that I had to try to figure out. And on top of that, as we was going through that, we started learning about, there's other accounts out there. There's another PayPal account. Where's that going to? So all this stuff is happening while I'm doing the internal audit. It's getting bigger than what I signed up for. And it got to the point where now we got 4 or 5 or 6 other accounts. So it got to the point where a simple little internal audit that you think you're just going to look at a couple of information, we didn't get no documentation for. Now that makes it much more difficult. Now I have to go back and forth to the bank to find out how much more information can I get. How many other accounts are there? So really I only got Bank of America account with 6 years of the data. Are you going to interrupt me during the middle? Dude, we're not in a court of law right now. We're not in a court of law right now, sir. So the point is, the reality is, I did my job, and on top of that, I don't need my credentials are solid. I've saved our community over $150 million and got an award from Obama, so I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. The reality is, I didn't do anything. The amount of work that I put into it, that $4,000 don't mean nothing. It's nothing. The reality of how much came out of it. Hold up for a second. The amount that I, and in fact, I only took the money 2 weeks ago. That report was done so long ago, because I said, based on our financial situation, I'm gonna hold off on all that, because I don't need to have that money. I know we need to have a situation, get better funding. She's working on grants and that nature, so I said, I'm gonna hold off on that. I got proof of that, when it was deposited, when I took it. So the reality is, I did the work a long time ago. It's morphed into something that none of us thought it was going to happen. It turned into an internal investigation where, then unfortunately she's getting disparaged and things are happening to her on a personal level.
Let's be clear.
What's that? We're not in a court of law, so hold on. I'm going to finish what I'm saying.
No, because you're now ventured away from the actual question.
We're not in a court of law,
We are
sir.
talking about 2018. We might end up
I'm talking about all the information. You asked me about internal audit. You asked me about internal audit first. So
I asked about what you were paid and whether you did.
I was paid for internal audit.
About
But sir, I was paid for internal audit services that had nothing to do with my personal relationship as doing the volunteer stuff from 2019 on January. Remember, I told you, I started January 2019 to do the job of a treasurer going forward. Not to be looking at all the past board's 5-6 years transactions at all. That's not what so the board agreed to vote to have me be able to do that on a situation that has nothing to do with the actual position.
To be clear.
Yeah.
Whatever happened in 2018 and before, some other group will have to deal with that, I'm sure. What I'm concerned about is 2019 on, what this board knew at the time the checks were bounced. That's what I